patriotism when Donald's to blame. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, more numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd shout no way. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
This just in. A sudden spike in logic levels across the city. Citizens report seeing a man with glasses and a podcast mic. We go now live to Liberal Dan. Yo, who you gonna call when Nazi writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, cause you know we got a plan. The right wing talking shit, but he ain't about to quit. He'll take his proton pack and zap your logic cause it's whack. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall.
It's being reported that Liberal Dan is setting up what appears to be some sort of straw man containment field.
He's calling out your lies with his mic he'll vaporize. Cross the streams in your dreams, bitch, you know that he's too wise. You're like Slimer talking crap, but you walked into his trap. Yo, it's more than entertainment, it's misinformation contained. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall. The Statue of Liberty, the writing you can see. So bring the huddled masses, it's a war of the classes. While Trump may think he's Vigo, Dan can cut through that ego. He's got the facts to prove him wrong, got that logic like Egon. Your logic is a ghost, cause you know this chick is toast. When you follow MTG, it's conspiracy, you'll see. There's no need to taser, he's got wit like Occam's razor. Liberal Dan cuts those lies with his Jewish-based laser.
It's unbelievable. Liberal Dan just used the literal dog whistle to lure a large group of internet trolls into what is being called a self-collapsing rhetoric singularity. In all my years of reporting, I've never seen anything like this.
So don't call to be a heckler, you ain't no Judge Rexler. He'll bust you like Scolary, cause your logic's looking hairy. Right-wing callers think they're cool, but they sounding just like Zool. You the dog, he the man, and yo, his name is Liberal Dan. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall. Liberal Dan, Liberal Dan, Liberal Dan.
Proclaimed king, a groper in chief, stealing our country, a crooked orange thief. Faux patriots who are poorly educated, wearing red hats and also unvaccinated. Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk on the left, that's right. A failing media that's barely treading water. They're too inept to fight this new world order. Corporate pigs are at the trough, hear the squeals. The swine won't bite the hands that feeds them meals. But Liberal Dan will see us flow. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk comes to left, that's right. A leftist voice on air, exposing MAGA treason, breaking through their lies with facts, logic, and reason. Unmasking hypocrisy, the truth will be our guide. Call out their lies, justice is on our side. Cause Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right.
All right, we're going to skip the rest of the end of the normal intro just to welcome everybody who's rating from House Sparks. Welcome, Sparklers, CSL, Desolate Misanthrope. Thank you, Aaron, for the 24 months subscribed. This is actually my anniversary on YouTube of getting monetized. So this is my monetized anniversary. So, but this is also your 24-month subscription for that as well. So thank you so much. I think the anniversary for that's next month, I think it is. But, you know, again, it's been 2 years since we've monetized, and I want to thank everybody, House Sparks specifically, and the Sparklers who have made this reality of moving the show forward. If you haven't subscribed over on YouTube yet, please make sure to do so. Remember to like, share, comment on videos, help the algorithm, because Al Gore needs more rhythm. If you go to store.liberaldanradio.com, which you have to put the HTTP in front of it, because I haven't quite figured out the whole that whole issue, why it's not loading properly. I think I know why, but it costs money. But anyway, you can check out the Al Gore Needs More Rhythm shirt. You can check out my FDT, and you could also check out my new song or new shirt that's about how Donald Trump is basically Don Quixote tilting at windmills, aka the man of La MAGA. So join over there, help over there with that. Again, other ways to help the show, just, you know, help the algorithm. Venmo Liberal Dan, go to liberaldan.com, click the Buy Me Cider button, or just go to buymeacoffee.com/liberaldanradio. You can become a Liberal Dan Radio patron, patreon.com/liberaldan, etc., etc., etc. But do want to, wow, Ali Osher's done a 3-stream streak. Thank you so much for watching, Ali Osher. Thank you so much. Dancing Dog, hello. And shout out to everybody over here. We got Steve from across the pond.
If it's no Scottish, it's crap.
We got Jeff from just north of Uranus. Fancy's in the chat. Good to see you, Fancy. Aaron, one half of the best mod squad on the planet. Speaking of mods, though, I do want to wish Andrea happy birthday. She also, it's her birthday today, so wanted to make sure to give her a shout out too. She's been very helpful, even though she's not officially a mod. Molly, it's a joy to see you. Mike, Dean, Jackie. Who else am I missing? I'm sure a bunch of other people. Suzanne, John Deff, Dean. I think I managed to hit everybody, but if I missed you, I apologize. Yes, Ali Osher, Vance is Sancho Plaza. You ain't getting a thumbs up if you play Had. I did play Had Biden Done It. We can, I can play the short version of it.
Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would flip. Had Biden done it, the screen fell play, but Trump did it, so it must be okay.
All right, there you go. There's the Had Biden Done It. Just if you want to see the whatchamacallit, what the logo looks like, I guess I can move myself over here. This is the FDT, so it has FD on it, and it's a T-shirt, so FDT, kind of like House Sparks' NFT shirts. So I borrowed from his idea a little bit, and then of course here is Donald Trump with big giant Donald Trump with a tiny Sancho Panza that I tried my best to make it look like JD Vance, short black hair, beard, etc. And of course, he's in front of all the windmills on the hill. And there's versions of that as well. You go to store.liberaldanradio.com, or you could just go here. I could just paste the regular link in the chat. Anyway, so there you go. That's the Liberal Dan. They've got the black version as well with whiter writing as well. Of course, one of my favorite ones, Al Gore Needs More Rhythm. So there you go. Oh, wrong page. There you go. So let's see. With everybody here, I do want to actually take this opportunity to play this year's Hypocrite of the Year. Normally, I try every week. I don't get it every week, but I try every week to do a hypocrite of the year, or try a hypocrite of the week every week, and then it culminates in at the end, the last episode of the year, which today will be the last episode of the year because I'm off on Wednesday, taking my kid to go see the Stranger Things finale. But here is this week's hypocrite of, or this year's hypocrite of the year, and you could probably guess who it is. The Liberal Dan Radio hypocrite of the year is, you guessed it, Donald Trump. Orange Julius had said he'd start no wars, but has no problem bombing people. The MAGA megalomaniac promised transparency, yet fired watchdogs. The law and order liar pardoned violent criminals while demanding others follow the law. Don Quixote claimed a fake energy crisis to keep a polluting power plant open while shutting down potential wind farms. The tired tyrant called Biden Sleepy Joe, but yet has been caught on camera sleeping multiple times. The answer is clear. Only Donald Trump can be Hypocrite of the Year. To catch the Hypocrite of the Week each week, tune in live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Central to liberaldanradio.com or twitch.liberaldanradio.com as we expose the Trump regime lies, crimes, and hypocrisy. If you can't listen live, be sure to subscribe and watch Liberal Dan Radio at any time for more talk from the left. That's right. And there we go. Donald Trump is the Hypocrite of the Year. Jan goes, I have a really great feeling about Liberal Dan Radio. It's going to grow big. It'll be big. It'll be the biggest show you've ever seen. No one will have a bigger show than Liberal Dan Radio. I do appreciate your confidence in me, and I do hope that we can get the subscribers up on YouTube next year. Hopefully, one of the tools I'm using can help with that. I have definitely seen my viewership rise significantly since I've been posting those short little AI-made clips from the show. Hopefully, that will then eventually turn into subscribers and, as such, more viewers, more interactions, etc., etc., etc. Start a snowballing effect. Lather, rinse, repeat. Let's see. Christine, if Donald J. Trump was Pinocchio, he would have a 100-foot nose. Probably so. Even whatever. There's a comment to be made there about something else that doesn't grow, but we could ask Stormy Daniels about that. So thank you, Aaron, for gifting a sub, and it went to CSL. Congratulations. There you go. Appreciate you for gifting, or thank you very much for gifting the tier 1 sub. Memes sell. Yeah, we'll see. Well, hopefully that t-shirt will sell. Hopefully people will like that the Man of La Maga t-shirt for the show, for the podcast or whatever. Is the answer all the Trump's drug importer presidents? I'm so confused. Trying to make sense of what Trump does can sometimes hurt your brain, simply because the fact that he does some things that are just so absolutely nonsensical, it's ridiculous. So, but I did want to go over, I would be remiss if we didn't go over some of the things from, I made a couple of lists, and I didn't necessarily have the time to merge the lists together or whatever, so we're going to go over some of the list of the things that Donald Trump has done this year, and to why not only he is the most terrible president in this history, but also the most harmful president in history. And of course, conservatives will be like, oh, he's wonderful, I voted for this, because conservatives, unfortunately, lack something that we like to call empathy, caring about other people, etc. Back on January 24th of 2025, Donald John Trump, after promising, again, a very transparent government, complaining about lack of transparency, he dismissed at least 17 inspectors general, raising concerns over oversight weakening and attacks of government transparency. Federal judge did later rule these as being unlawful. Of course, we have a lawless president, and as such, he is going to do lawless things. But starting off 4 days into your administration, just firing inspectors general doesn't set the stage for a transparent, ethical administration, regime, etc., whatever you want to call it. Michael says 3 or 4 days of list of Trumpiest crimes. Yeah, I mean, we could sit here for 5 hours and not even, tackle everything that Donald Trump has done this year. So we're going to have to try and do a little bit of a summary and going over some of the things that maybe we've gone over here on the show, as well as maybe some other things that we might have missed. Let's see, January 20th, so I guess the first day of his administration, Trump issued an executive order pulling the U.S. out of the Paris Agreement, again drawing criticism from scientists and global leaders. He tightened immigration enforcement and Guantanamo de facto detention in January, February, policy changes, and legal uncertainty over use of Gitmo. Detained immigrants face logistical and legal criticism. Of course, the idea that Donald Trump tightened immigration is something that I highly contest. I have no reason to believe that this administration is giving us factual or correct information, and I am very critical of anybody in the media, left or right, who sits there and just buys and parrots what the administration says. If you don't recall, if you don't remember, when Axios had the interview of Donald Trump with Moran, and Moran was like, "You've reduced immigration across the border." Like, why? Why are you stating that? You should ask for evidence, ask for proof of this, because if you can't see something, as we say in the show, if you're new to the show, Trump lacks object permanence. He basically believes that if you can't see something happening, it's not happening. It's why during the 2020 election and the Tulsa rally, he demanded that they stop the testing, because he says if you have more testing, you have more cases, which is of course silly. Testing doesn't create the cases. Testing reveals the cases. But in order for Donald Trump, if he can't see the results, then to him, it doesn't matter. It's not visible. You can't see it. So with ICE agents and Border Patrol agents going after people who are, cruise ship workers from the Philippines, deporting over 100 of them from Carnival cruise ships or whatever, a lot of them from Norfolk, Virginia, all of the actions that ICE is doing in New Orleans, trying to go to Chicago, Los Angeles, yada, yada, yada. You do all of these things and you have all of these ICE agents and border agents operating away from the border. They're not at the border to see who's crossing the border. So if you're not at the border to see who's crossing the border, guess what? You can't tell us that immigration has been reduced. And this administration has lied by telling us that for 7 straight months that we have had 0 illegal border crossings at our southern border. And if you believe that, I have a bridge in Brooklyn and over Lake Pontchartrain and in San Francisco and many other places that I would love to be able to sell you. Just Venmo me a whole bunch of money and you'll be sure to get it, right? So there you go. Hey Janelle, good to see you. Thank you for joining. The goddess Kimchi is in the chat, and Karen, good to see you as well. Thank you for joining. Did I miss anything else? I think somebody else had jumped in. Big Hook is who I was missing. Hey, Big Hook, how are you today? And then, of course, January 28th, Trump signed a sweeping order targeting gender-affirming care, described by critics as discriminatory and medically unfounded. And we have recently seen the administration, because of that executive order, going after, for example, companies that make binders so that they can... binders can be used like after surgery for cis women, for if you just breast reduction surgery, to help things not move around a bit. But binders can also be used by trans people, regardless of them being trans youth or trans adults, and as a non-surgical option to show that their chest is smaller than what it normally would be. It can be, either gender euphoric by having somebody have a body that's more close to the one that they would like to have. Not allowing them can be gender dysphoric, i.e. if you're forcing them to not be able to handle this, they may be suffering from gender dysphoria and even worse. And also, when people don't have access to binders, especially when young people don't have access to binders, they will oftentimes use ace bandages and other things that will enable them to have the look that they want, but that look can result in problems because duct tape or ace bandages or anything else that's wound too tightly and not of the proper material is not going to give you what you need, and instead can hurt you, can cause crack ribs and other problems with breathing, etc. So you don't want to do those alternate things, and this administration doesn't care about the harm that their policies cause, and as such they're going to just do things because it's popular and not because it's right. So then, see, the first quarter GDP we saw contraction. The GDP fell back in 2025, and causing the public to doubt what his, answers would be on the economy. Of course, if you pay attention to this show or Hal's show or any other show that actually, Texas Paul, any politics girl, anybody who pays attention to what the hell is going on and what happened in the first administration, you would absolutely know that Donald Trump could not be trusted on the economy because he is an absolute, con artist when it comes to the economy or anything else for that matter, but he is a giant con artist. So, conservative channel says, y'all like U.S. politics, go have a look on my channel. What do you think? I don't know. Why don't you send some people over here first and communicate without spamming everybody, huh? So anyway, but welcome, make sure to help the algorithm. And, you could debate in the chat if you want or whatever, but, spamming, coming into a chat and immediately spamming isn't a good look, dude. So, anyway. What else? Where am I? I've lost my track on my list. Anyway. So then, of course, the Trump administration started getting, court challenges on asylum and enforcement in the spring. Multiple civil liberties groups were targeting Trump and what we're doing for who he was targeting. Then, of course, with Doge, you had all the massive layoffs that came in, and those layoffs, as I said before on the show, and actually, I wonder if Joe Rogan watches Liberal Dan Radio Talk from the Left. That's right, because after I said this saying, he said it later on his show too, which is the important thing in both carpentry and in cutting budgets is you measure twice before cutting. You probably also want to do that with circumcisions, right? You want to measure first before cutting with a circumcision. But they didn't measure twice before cutting, and they made some cuts, and then they needed to go run after people and try and, get them to come back to work for the administration that just fired them. Good job, huh? And as it becomes more apparent as to the effect that Doge has, it was minimal to nothing as it comes to monetary policy, finances that they saved. And then also, it ends up, those cuts, especially like USAID and other groups that are meant to help people out, funding for sending, HIV medicines to prevent the spread of HIV in Africa, food that is being sent out, and food that was paid for by the U.S. government and to American farmers to make sure that, they could make some money. The farmers stopped making money on that. And then, of course, the farmers also stopped making money on tariffs. We'll get to that in a second. But the USAID funds that went away so that, people aren't getting fed, how many people have died because of Donald Trump's actions? Literally because of Donald Trump's action. People dying. And we already saw that in the first administration. We already saw that in his first administration where people died needlessly during COVID. But now we're seeing people dying needlessly because we have taken away a just cold turkey, and it's wrong. But then back to those tariffs, that first of all, the farmers were hurt because of the fact that they weren't getting USAID money to be able to pay for those, the food that they created and generated or grew or whatever, and sent them off to other countries. But then they started suffering because of tariffs, and tariffs not only increased the prices that they have to pay for supplies, tractors, etc., but it also caused other countries to say, okay, well, we're going to buy our soy from this other place and not from the United States. And guess what? Hurt the farmers even more. So now what? So then Donald Trump had to come in just like he did during his last administration and save the farmers from the tariffs that he caused. So this is what Donald Trump does. He makes a mess, and then he pretends he's the good guy for cleaning up said mess. So, Andrea, good to see you. I wished you a happy birthday, but since you're here, I will... Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Andrea. Happy birthday to you. And many more. And of course, Karen, they would absolutely vote for him again if they could, because to the people that voted for Trump, they thought that they would help him out, that they would help them out financially, which he hasn't done. He's harmed everyone financially who is on the bottom, like 97% of, who owns things or who is in this country. So he's harmed all of them. But even if they didn't think that they were going to help him, that he was going to help them economically, they still would have voted for him because of his bigotry, because that's why they support him, because he is a bigot. And I can't be convinced otherwise. So, let's see. And then, energy policy holdback throughout 2025, of course, as we discussed last week, halted offshore wind projects, cited as a failure to address future energy needs, criticized as costly and disruptive. Of course, we saw this on the show as well, that when after the day that he canceled those wind farm projects, there was a lot of, it wasn't shorts, but it was a lot of speculation, basically, that the stock was going to fall, and guess what? It did. So, who was doing that manipulation of the market? As we've seen, with Trump's tariffs, there was like, oh, we're going to put the tariffs in. Oh, now we're not. We're going to put the tariffs in. Oh, now we're not. Oh, we're going to put the tariffs in. Oh, now we're not. And the market was so volatile at the time, I was like, well, how many people in his administration are playing these games with these particular actions, because they know with the market volatility that stocks are going to tank, so they can short stocks, and then they could sell now or buy later if they felt like it, whatever. So, anywho, of course, there's been media analysis over 2025 that that basically this administration has been marked by crisis, policy inconsistency, and a lack of effective governance. He had the longest government shutdown in the history of this country. I mean, there's something to be said about that, right? He also claimed, again, as I talked about in the Hypocrite of the Year, he claimed that he would not start wars, but we have been engaging more and more people militarily. And I'm not against military intervention when it's called for, but even today, he bombed apparently a bunch of boats in a port in Venezuela, claiming that that's where the drugs were loaded. But since he's never caught one of these boats to confirm that they are loaded up with drugs, guess what? I don't believe him, because I don't believe anything that Trump says, or this administration says, about anything whatsoever. So, yes, Christine, the president of peace. He's going to be a peace type. He's going to have peace like no one's ever seen. Except he hasn't. He promised to stop Russia on day one. It's still going on. He can't find a solution. And one of the reasons why he can't find a solution is because he's clearly Putin-centric. He even believes Putin again. He tells that, Putin won't lie. Putin would never lie. He's wonderful. He's honest with me. He believes what Putin's telling him. And Putin told him that, that supposedly Ukrainian bombs went off by Putin's residence. Well, why the hell would you believe that? It wasn't our intelligence operations telling that, although I don't know how much intelligence is left in United States intelligence efforts after what he has done to our government, but still, why would you believe Putin? There's no reason to believe Putin whatsoever. So, let's see. Then, of course, the military strikes related to narcotics. There's the one boat that got hit twice, the people sitting there on a capsized boat, and the Republican sitting there playing apologist for his horrible actions, for the murder and or war crimes against those people. Like, somebody one day is going to have to pay for the murdering of these people in these boats. And they need to be held to account, but it's not going to happen with a Republican Congress. It's not going to happen with a Republican administration, which means the Democrats need to take back everything. And of course, you know me, I've been very critical of the Democrats as well. Hey, thank you, Aaron, for gifting another sub. Appreciate you. You've gifted 4. Appreciate you so much for that. Thank you so much for helping the show. I mean, thank you so much for helping the show, just for being a mod. I mean, I love everything else that you do, but the fact that you and Jolie are my mods, has helped make the show even better as well. So, so lack of transparency on covert actions. So again, U.S. drug strikes boat loading facility in Venezuela. Trump says, President Donald Trump said on Monday that the U.S. had hit an area in Venezuela where boats are loaded with drugs, marking the first known time Washington has carried out land operations in Venezuela since a pressure campaign against Nicolas Maduro's government. There was a major explosion in the dock area where they'll load the boats up with the drugs, Trump says. Of course, again, we don't believe all of that crap, but that fact that stuff is happening today. There's also a backlash against abortion policy changes. Trump administration bans U.S. Veterans Agency from providing abortions. The Department of Veterans Affairs can no longer provide abortions to veterans, including in cases of rape or incest, following a Department of Justice memo that found last week that the practice was not legally sound. The ban follows months of efforts by the Trump administration to roll back Biden-era policy that for the first time permitted the VA to counsel veterans and their families about abortion, as well as offer the procedure in cases of rape, incest, or when a veteran's pregnancy imperiled their health. In August, the administration filed paperwork to officially roll back the policy, which had helped VA's network 1,300 plus healthcare facilities, which treat nearly 10 million veterans each year. The paperwork is still working its way through the lengthy rulemaking process, a VA spokesperson confirmed. The DOJ's opinion states that the VA is not legally authorized to provide abortions, and the VA is complying with it immediately. VA press secretary said in an emailed statement, DOJ's opinion is consistent with the VA's proposed rule. Screenshots obtained by an advocacy group, which appears to be an eternal VA memo, circulated among the heads of the VA's regional care networks on the 22nd of December, indicate the changes do not prohibit providing care to pregnant women in life-threatening circumstances, including cases of miscarriage, ectopic pregnancy, or when the veteran's clinician determines the care is necessary to save the veteran's life. Of course, I don't believe that, because just like within the Texas law, just like within the Georgia law, the Louisiana law, and all the other horrible anti-abortion laws that have passed, the claim that you're allowed to save your own life doesn't hold water when the practice of it is that people don't want to risk losing their jobs or being incarcerated for simply providing life-saving care that should always be required to be given at any time whatsoever. I don't care what type of hospital you are. Life-saving care should be able to be given. And I'm not talking about life-saving care when somebody's on death's door and needs it right now, or else they're going to die. When you know that something could potentially be toxic and the miscarriage is happening, just like with what happened in Texas, you should be able to go and abort that pregnancy immediately. But in the case of the Texas case that we've been talking about on the show, and other cases that have happened in this country, we know that these conservatives will not save the life of somebody. They are going to stop the hospitals and the clinics from acting in those dire circumstances and force the people to wait until the very last minute, which risks terrible, terrible amount of harm to the person in general. So thank you, Petrazi, for being a member for 4 months. Appreciate you and your renewing and still being a liberal Danimal. Jolie is in the house. Good to see you, Jolie. Thank you for stopping by. Appreciate you. Let's see. But of course, there's the constant issues with his immigration policies. The fact that people are being targeted who are here legally, people who are being detained who are citizens. Literally, a Maryland woman has a birth certificate and a passport, and the family says, hey, we'll provide it, and they're like, no, it's a fake. Again, this is why people need due process. This is why everybody needs due process. And I believe that everybody should have due process, because that's what the Constitution provides that everybody has. But here's the problem, is that these conservatives don't understand why you might need due process for other people who are here illegally. So you basically have to tell it to them in ways that they might understand, in hopes that they'll understand, even though odds are they might not. because you basically tell them, look, I just want to see you get detained by ICE. I want to see you as a conservative be told that your birth certificate is fake, and then see how you respond when you try and get free as a U.S. citizen. This is why everybody should get due process, because if you believe that citizens deserve due process, you have to give it to everybody, because everybody who is a citizen needs to have the ability to prove that they are a citizen, to show the evidence that they are a citizen. And this is not happening in this case. But again, there's also other people here legally that this administration has harmed. 500,000 people here on humanitarian parole who, you know, they were allowed by previous administrations, so they were here legally. Donald Trump just revoked that humanitarian parole very recently for 500,000 people. Why? Why would he do that? Because Biden did it? Sure. But also because of other reasons. Because he's just a hate-filled Nazi who, you know, doesn't want to have the people who were allowed in with that humanitarian parole to remain in the country. So he revokes their legal status and then says GTFO. Self-deport. Well, how if they're here for humanitarian aid or humanitarian parole, who's to say that they can afford to self-deport? So you're punishing them for actions that you're taking. Again, 100 plus Filipino cruise ship workers. Woman here who is allowed to be here legally from Iran here in New Orleans. The PhD student that was detained in the San Francisco airport. All these people who are here legally. And then when the parents are undocumented and the child is a citizen, they deport the parents and say, well, you can either leave your kid here or take your kid with you. Well, if the kid's getting brain cancer treatment, how can you be that cruel? I understand that he is. I just don't understand the mindset that allows one to become that cruel. Let's see, Karen, I'm so glad I was able to get an abortion from a partially developed fetus that wouldn't survive back in '84 because the doctor did cryosurgery on me, and at the time I was of the time and didn't know. I'm missing the last part, but yes. 56 Nick Rich, I deport ICE agents, please. Sure, absolutely. Absolutely should be deported. Would love to see that happen too, but of course, you know, they're protected. Hey, Hoosier Scott, thank you for joining. What's up? Bob LeBlanc. I was like, who's Bob Blank? Bob Blank. I was like, no, Bob LeBlanc. Thank you. And Bob says binders for sports and other activities too. Fewer all due process. But here's the thing. With the binders issue we were talking about earlier, you have the issue of the fact that they're not going after companies that sell binders to, you know, those folks, to cis women or whatever, or for people with sports injuries or whatever. They're only going after the ones that they think are targeting young trans folk, trans masculine folks, young trans men, etc. And you're telling them you don't want them to get surgery, which most people don't who are trans when they're young don't get surgeries done. But then you're telling them to, you know, they can't have non-surgical options either. So it's never about the surgery. It's always about the hate in their hearts for other people that they don't understand, they don't know, they don't like, or just basically they hate. Of course, the other thing with ICE, quotas. They had quotas that they wanted to have broad sweeps instead of targeted enforcement, so they enforce quotas, which of course means you're going to probably be more likely to get false positives, and we've gotten false positives. And they're not targeting the bad hombres, the worst of the worst. They're targeting people who are peaceful, who are not doing anything wrong whilst here, even if they are undocumented. They're not harming anybody here. If they're not harming anybody, I don't give a crap. Welcome to the country. I'm not going to sit here and try and push somebody out who's just here because this is the best place for them to be. Apparently, it no longer is. So, yeah, exactly, Christine. They hate what they don't understand. There were Indian nationals 104 Indian nationals were deported while handcuffed on a military flight. That was earlier in the year. Then you had the expansion of ICE authority into sensitive locations in the spring. Basically, you used to not be able to go into schools and hospitals, places of worship. But now this administration's like, go after him wherever you want to go after him, because to him it's more important to be cruel than to actually be kind. And of course, who else did he go after? They went after recently the people who were waiting in line to get naturalized. These people, they are, again, conservative. Conservative is just, hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite. That's the way I'm trying to say it. The hypocrisy there of, you know, telling these people, oh, just come here legally. If you come here legally, you won't have a problem. It's the people who are here illegally that are the problems. Well, nope, because there were people who were coming here legally, absolutely did everything right, dotted all the I's, crossed the T's, were waiting in line to get naturalized, and then the administration's like, nope, we're plucking you out of line, screw you, you're not getting your naturalization. How fucking cold can you be? Then, of course, Donald Trump tries to move the military into the U.S. cities like, you know, fucking Nazi. And at least the Supreme Court told him for Chicago, you can't do it in those particular cases. And here's, I guess, the limited amount of cases that you'll be able to do, take this action with. Then, of course, they wanted to recruit 10,000 ICE agents. There's been lowered standards and misconduct increases. There's somebody who is an ICE agent who was just convicted of violating somebody sexually in the Louisiana ICE detention facility. You have people who were basically told to self-determine whether or not they were able to take the job, and all these people went and tried to get hired on as ICE agents, and they can't even pass the physical. And then, you know, you have the, $40,000 bonuses for new ICE officers. Like, we don't have money for all this other stuff, and the farmers are hurting it. You're going to give signing bonuses to be your Gestapo. And of course, there's the detention center issues, as we went over in the previous show. CCOT, fucking concentration camp. You have Florida's version of Dachau. You know, and then you have the Trump administration that wants to build more of these warehouses, and they want to hold people in warehouses now. They want to do that. They've said that. And not only that, you know, I'm sure Louisiana's be the first one up to bat. They're like, hey, we'll gladly have these facilities here. They'd love to have it in Louisiana because Jeff Landry, the new special envoy or whatever to Greenland, or red, white, and blue land, as the idiot conservatives want to call it, you know, he will be more than happy to kiss Trump's ass, because I think might very well be the first one who would have been like, hey, we welcome the military to come in the streets of our cities. Come on down here, because I want an orange nose just like everybody else in your cabinet. So, let's see. And of course, again, the quotas that we talked about earlier, they've led to arrests. Those arrests include people who don't have serious crimes. Only 3% of the people who are on the list of people that were sent to CCOT had actual serious crime convictions. The other 97% were not yet convicted of anything. Some may have had some charges against them, but the information obtainable by ICE doesn't show what crimes they were being charged with, and the crimes may very well have been just crimes as it pertains to crossing the border. And of course, then the person who wanted to have a very transparent government, who then eliminated 17 inspectors general, have also scrolled up for a second. Okay, so yeah, you don't have any transparency because you lack inspectors general, because inspectors general were removed earlier on in the year, and now DHS sets rules that wants to attempt to limit a lawmaker's ability to access immigration centers, causing them to, you know, there would be conflict over whether or not they are allowed to do their legally required oversight. But hey, who cares about oversight, right? Because all these conservatives who magically distrusted government to do the right thing, you know, they said, oh, government's bad, government's terrible, government's horrible. Now they trust everything that's coming out of the mouths of the people in government. There's yes, sir, yes, man. Yes, sir, as Donald Trump likes to say the people call him. See, again, the administration moved to dismiss many active asylum cases without merit hearings, and that undermines legal protections. They have now restrictions on public health asylum rules. Regulation allowing asylum denial on public health grounds was finalized, widening executive enforcement. So the administration doesn't care about public health when it comes to masking or making sure that, you know, there's a good distribution network for the vaccines that were created. The conservatives hate that, but yet now they're willing to have public health as a reason to deny somebody asylum. Ridiculous. Of course, ICE raids have caused economic disruption, places closing down that would normally be open, making more issues with the supply chains. You know, you don't only have the issue of tariffs hurting the farmers from the outside, from the large levels, but you're intensifying raids at these agricultural places that do hire undocumented folks, and as such, those places, you know, have crops rotting in the field, etc. And of course, his solution is to just take some money from the tariffs and give it back to the farmers, which is robbing Paul to pay Paul. Of course, scientific community has been criticizing the administration over climate and public health messaging. Of course, we have RFK Jr. in charge of public health, and if that's not a recipe for disaster, I don't know what is. Captain Brainworm and his merry band of idiots are going to sit here and, you know, try and change the rules on vaccines and make people more vaccine hesitant. And I could only imagine what's going to happen after a let's say another pandemic happens under a Trump administration, or even under the next Democratic administration. If a major public health disaster is coming at us with a giant with a virus or some other form of bug that's going to make you sick, and let's say it's more transmissible, and let's say it's more deadly. Sometimes that doesn't happen because the more deadly it is, the less likely. If it kills you fast, it's less likely to be transmitted. But still, these conservatives are going to sit here. They're not going to mask. They're not going to social distance. They're going to put everybody's health in danger simply because they don't have empathy, which is what we've been saying for a while now. Then, of course, he wants to sue the Federal Reserve Chair. Jerome Powell's raised questions about public threat against the Fed's. Jerome Powell raised questions about respect for institutional independence. Of course, there shouldn't be questions about institutional independence. You should know that Donald Trump doesn't like institutional independence. This is why we have a Justice Department. When we had the Justice Department under Biden, and some could argue that he should have been more hands-on, but basically let the Justice Department just act autonomously and didn't have any say in what was going on with that Justice Department. This Justice Department absolutely is going to, follow everything that Donald Trump says, and is only going to go after people Donald Trump wants to go after, and will protect the people that Donald Trump wants to protect, even the criminals. So I asked this one thing to give me this timeline, and it's absolutely terrible in image format. So, let's see. Chad, more than 50% of border agents are Hispanic. Well, I mean, there are Jewish people who supported Hitler too. There are Jewish people who are like, oh, it's not going to happen to me. It's not going to happen to me. We need to elect this guy because he's going to make Germany great again. And then what happened? The Holocaust happened. So the fact that there are people who are, and I mean, I don't know where you're getting your numbers from, Chad. What percentage of ICE agents are... Thank you, 250 Kilo Ohm, for subscribing. Appreciate you. Was it LibDan what unite? What'd you put there? Let's see. According to AI, at least, while ICE agent demographics aren't in the snippets, Department of Homeland Security data shows Hispanics make up about 22.8% of the total DHS workforce, suggesting a significant but not majority Hispanic presence within the broader agency, with specific ICE breakdowns often showing high Hispanic representation due to job functions, though not necessarily for agents themselves. So there may be people who work for ICE who can speak Spanish. Then again, you don't have to be a Hispanic person to speak Spanish. My grandmother, may her memory be a blessing, she I graduated high school at 16. I think graduated college at 19. And she had a degree in Spanish. She could speak Spanish fluently. And during the war, World War II, one of her jobs during the war was literally to sit there and look at letters that were being sent to Mexico to make sure that nobody was, sending state secrets to people in another country. And so all of a sudden she gets this letter across her desk, and she hands the letter to one of her coworkers and is like, "You need to do this." She's like, "Why? What's up with it?" She's like, "You just need to." "Why?" "Because it's my letter to my cousin, and I can't censor my own letter, so you have to do it." So what are the odds that her own letter would come across her desk for her as a native Spanish person, Spanish speaking, not even a native Spanish speaking person, a trained Spanish speaking person, to, I mean, what are the odds? What's the chance? So, thank you, Susie, for being a liberal Danimal for 5 months. Appreciate you. We all need a joint and mandatory congressional mushroom trips. That might make things better. You never know. Karen, I can't believe all the snow everyone is having. Is it more extreme this winter for you guys? It is more. Yeah, she recused herself. Exactly, Nick. It is definitely more chilly than. It is definitely more chilly here than it usually is. It doesn't say this cold this long, but yeah. It's not expected to snow or even freeze down here in New Orleans, but we're in New Orleans. I'm sure up north it's, again, climate change is real, everyone. Climate change is something that's happening to everybody, and it's going to cause massive changes in weather patterns, but the conservatives don't care because they don't believe in science. Aquatic goes, not ice. But again, there's no data for ice, so I don't know where you're getting your data for ice. This is from 2020. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is not a department you expect a lot of Latinos to work in. In fact, many Latinos actively oppose it and are leading a movement to abolish ICE, which they see as racist institution. Yet nearly 30% of ICE agents and about 50% of Border Patrol agents in the U.S. are Latino. According to data from Univision received from ICE in 2017, Latino ICE agents outnumbered black agents 2-1, and Asian agents by 4-1. White agents outnumber Latino agents by 3-1. A new study looks into why Latino ICE and Border Patrol agents joined in the first place. One Latino agent Cortez spoke with for the study, Claudio C.J. Juarez, said that this is about why he began working in immigration enforcement decades ago. I was literally starving. I ate a lot of beans and rice in those days, let me tell you, man. But really, I wish I could say it was idealistic or more sexy, but it really was simple, as they were the first ones that called me, and I jumped on the first opportunity. So another person who joined ICE, Sylvia Newman, answered the question this way: I was a single parent. That's why I got this job. I had just gotten divorced and had a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old and needed a job with more security. So I started applying. I went to all the federal agencies to see, what qualifications were. I just started applying, and then the ICE application started going through. So not necessarily a bunch of ICE people who are, supporting the activities of ICE, but they're doing it because they're desperate. Not necessarily a ringing endorsement for what's going on with ICE. Let's see. Barometer is wonky now. Yes, barometer is wonky now. Hey, Josh. Hey, Vasantha. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. Remember, everyone, if you're watching, please make sure to smash that like button and then the patriarchy. If you're watching over on YouTube, and if you're watching on Twitch, head over to YouTube for a second and smash that like button just to get the algorithm up. Because, again, Al Gore needs more rhythm. So, bleh. What else do I want to talk about here? I guess I'm getting back to the top of the hour. So, again, just a show reset. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, except for this Wednesday. Here on liberaldanradio.com, which is the YouTube channel, or twitch.liberaldanradio.com, which is obviously the Twitch channel. Support the show. The best thing you could do is for free. Just comment on, like videos, respond to other people's comments on the videos on YouTube, share the ones that you like with your friends. Again, help the algorithm because Al Gore needs more rhythm. Support the show. You can Venmo Liberal Dan. You can support the show financially. Buy me a cider for a one-time contribution to the show. Buymeacoffee.com/liberaldanradio, or click the Buy Me a Cider button over at liberaldan.com. You can become a Liberal Dan patron, patreon.com/liberaldan or patreon.liberaldan.com. Let's just see for a second. Let us go into the Patreon just to see. Active. So just want to shout out to Arizona Sunflowers, Robert Reynolds, Jolie, Aaron, and Cesar, all people who are active patrons over there. Appreciate y'all for supporting the show. Thank y'all so much for your help. Let's see, they say after the first of the year that winter will get worse. That's all we need, right? Especially with power issues, especially with people, having issues just purchasing whatever they need, for the winter. It's, going to be rough. And Donald Trump's policies are not helping and are likely hurting and are going to make people, suffer even more. I wish there wasn't as much suffering going on in the world, but I wish there was a valid, some place where you can go to say, this is how many people the Trump administration has literally killed with their policies this year, maybe not even ignoring that, including bombing people in boats with no actual sign to show that they were actually terrible people doing illegal things, etc. Again, board the damn boat with the Coast Guard. Check to see what's on it. Prove to us that you're doing what you're saying that you're doing. Because if you're unwilling to prove what you're saying, what you're doing, then we have no reason to trust you. So let's go ahead and we will unclick that, click that, and anybody who wants to call in, you're welcome to do so. It is the last show of 2025, heading into 2026. Again, we'll be off Wednesday. Thursday, we'll be back January 1st to start off the new year right. You can start off the new year with Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, that's right. But you can call in 562-LIB-DAN1, 562-LIB-DAN1, 562-542-3261. So you can call in. Of course, Big Hook is always welcome to call in. But if anybody else wants to beat him to it, now's your opportunity. Again, 562-542-3261 is the phone number, or 562-LIB-DAN1 is the number to call. Let's see. We had and another notification. Oh, another follow. Thank you for the follow, Big Stefan. Thank you. I'm sure Stephanie Miller, I'm assuming. 1776 to 2026. Unfortunately, that is a very strong possibility. Not something that you can, wave out of sight, out of mind, or whatever. Corporate snooze. Breaking. There is weather. Yes, breaking. Weather is happening. We have weather. Congratulations for the weather. So, again, everyone I want to call, 562-LIB-DAN1, 562-LIB-DAN1, 562-542-3261. Let's head back in here. Trying to see anything else. Wow, it's fancy power outages again. I'm back, but I don't know for how long. Stay warm, stay safe, Fancy. Hope you do well with all of that stuff. I'm in the high desert in California, Karen says, so we just had all that bad rain. Jeff, be right back. Bloody Mary ain't gonna make itself. Make me one too while you're at it, eh? I don't know how you're gonna get it to me, but if you make one for me, I guess you have to drink it for me as well, too, right? Oh, I didn't see Tim come in. Good to see you, Tim. Thank you so much for joining. But again, as I've said, as I was talking about earlier with that whole, maybe 50% of Border Patrol, 30% of ICE are of Latino descent, Latinos, Latinas, Latinx, or whatever. However, problem is that when you have, that's not a justification of what ICE is doing. ICE is not going to necessarily stop what they're doing poorly, just because they have folks who are of Latin American descent. Also, there are many examples throughout history of people who help perpetuate their own bigoted government actions against their own people. So I don't know what having 50% of Hispanic workers means, but it's definitely not something. It's not a statement that says, "Oh, the Hispanic people support what's going on," because no. But anyway, thank you, Big Hook, for calling in. Appreciate you. How are you doing this New Year's? Would this be this wouldn't be New Year's Steve yet? I guess tomorrow's New Year's Steve. New Year's Steve Eve. I guess that would be today. Anyway, how are you today? How's your foot doing?
It's getting better. It's getting better. I'm able to walk a little bit now without my boot, so that's helpful. I'm have to get the strength and the coordination back again, and go through the painful process of rebuilding the muscle and gaining confidence with balance and whatnot. It's not an injury I would approve of anyone trying deliberately. That's for sure. It's not on my list of things to revisit. That's for sure.
Oh, I bet. I mean, I definitely don't want to go through this crap again. But yeah, the this leg for some reason is feeling sore for longer and tighter for longer than the other one. And this was the better leg, so who knows? I mean, I'm still doing well range of motion wise, my therapist says, but it's just not. It's not as I don't feel like I'm making the same progress as I did the previous time. So, but anyway.
For sure, we don't heal necessarily as fast as we used to when we were younger. That's the thing. It's
right.
It's one of the other problems with getting old is that we just you suffer so many of these age-related things. I mean, like I said, it's been a bad bout for me lately. I mean, I had shingles, then I had COVID, then I had this. It's there's so many things that can go wrong out there, and I mean that's just it. And I mean now you guys are on the scourge of a pandemic practically, because I mean you've got flu, you've got RSV, you've got COVID, you got measles, you got whooping cough, you got everything imaginable out there right now, stalking you at every turn. And then you got the idiot who has misused his last name to gain credibility based on conspiracy theories that have no scientific basis, and then to find as many crackpots as he possibly could who agree with him and put them in the positions of power and authority. I mean, I don't know.
Right. Exactly.
It seems rather. I mean, that's the thing. The U.S. had certain things that it did, and now you look at it. Okay, so who's going to do the cancer research?
Right.
Who's going to produce the vaccines? Who's going to protect the world against, things like Ebola and other existential problems, because, and that's just it, you guys, who's going to trust you now?
Not until we get a new president.
Well, yeah, that plus, I mean, think about it. Every 4 years, you are once again in a position where an even bigger idiot can gain control and turn the world upside down.
Yep. And
threaten humanity based on ego and delusion, And I mean, I don't know about you, but, Sleepy Joe was fine with me. He was competent. He knew all the major players, they knew him and they trusted him. He had a a wonderful reputation worldwide. I mean, yes, he made some mistakes back in the day when, unfortunately, he hung around lots of people who were, a bad influence, whether it was the Crime Act or whatever, but,
Well, with the
where they
Crime Act,
basically.
a lot of people look at the Crime Act through some weird eyes. Like, one of the things with the Crime Act is he didn't act on that alone. Like, the reason he acted on it was because, like, a bunch of the mayors of the majority black cities, who are mostly, if not all, black mayors, told him, we need this tough on crime legislation passed, so please pass this for us so that our cities can be safer. And of course, that's when we believed in the 90s that tough on crime was the best way to deal with crime, and now we know better. And now he knew better too during this administration. But back then, he was just listening to, to black mayors and saying, "What do your constituents need?" Which is what he should do as a representative of somebody who's trying to pass legislation that's going to affect everybody in the country. Should listen to the people who are going to be affected the most. And so, unfortunately, those mayors were wrong. But I had a very hard time being critical of Biden over passing something when the reason he supported it was because it was the black mayors who were telling him, please pass this for us. So.
Yeah, but that's the thing. We all have skeletons in our closet, times when we, had a dalliance with, stupid decisions, stupid remarks, stupid behavior, I mean, how is it that so many women end up with horrible men and abusive husbands and everything else, And I mean, that's the thing. It's the world is a changing, we're becoming more aware. The psychology is there. We're seeing the warning signs more and more nowadays, and yes, you're going to have those out there that are basically looking for financial stability. But if that financial stability comes at the cost of losing your own humanity, the question is can you live with yourself after all that is said and done? I mean, that's just it. I don't know. And I think we are really at a precipice right now, especially with all the AI out there. I mean, all the fake shit that's out there now, impersonating people, putting words in people's mouths when they haven't said that or whatnot. There was an example that I forwarded to you where this lady was like, oh, and here it looks like, and it was mislabeled. It was mislabeled as, oh, and here are snowballs being thrown at ICE agents
Right.
in Minneapolis, and she said something doesn't seem right about this.
Mm-hmm.
And she went and she did a Google search, and the AI results said, oh yes, it is Minneapolis. And then she did a further in-depth search, and it turned out it's from Russia.
Of course.
And that's just it. You can't believe AI. It will give you the simplest answer possible. If somebody mislabels it and puts it out as misleading thing, it will prop that result up and say that's what it is, which means that there was no fact checking whatsoever on the part of AI.
Right.
And that's just it. That's why I don't trust it. I don't trust any of this shit that's out there. And that's the thing. We're losing the truth in the process because we are trusting machines that are manipulated by people who have no values, whose only interest is, can it make me money? Can I make people reliant on it? Can I shape the future that I see as opposed to the future people want? And that's of great concern to me. I think it should be great. I would think it would be of great concern to everyone else out there.
See, like the people who
why?
sleep. The problem is that the people who need to be how do you sleep at night? They for watching all the stuff happening. Those people are like, oh, I voted for this. And the vast majority of them are not going to say, I didn't vote for this until it actually affects them, because again, conservatives lack empathy, and as a general rule at least, and they can't imagine.
Yeah, but they believe. But here's the thing that gets me is that conservatives, in general, trust everything that's told to them via other conservatives, and that's the thing. They go, "Oh, well, I'm smarter than everybody else," which falls in line with the white supremacism bullshit that they've been taught to believe their whole lives. That, oh yeah, we're better than everybody. Yeah, we were here first. We know everything.
We were here first, and then the Native Americans, the indigenous folks, looking at them like, really? But yeah, but again,
I mean, that's just it. It's horse shit of the highest order. And that's the thing. I don't understand. It's going to be the downfall of humanity the way it's going right now. That's my big concern. Is that we won't choose otherwise until it's too late. I mean, that's one of the concerns, like, for example, with that really old movie War Games. Oh, should we put a computer in charge of looking after our interests and whatnot?
right.
And it's like, no, I don't want that. I want a human fact check on everything, because that's just it. Anybody can manipulate anything, and that's just it. And especially with Russia and China and all these other nations that want nothing but the worst for North America, because they look at it and they think that, and I mean, to some degree, who can blame them? I mean, the U.S. has gone to war so many times, whether it be Vietnam, whether it be Korea, under false pretenses, under a lie, just because, oh, I needed to stay in power, so it's a wag the dog, attempt to retain power. And that's just it. This shit should not be happening.
It shouldn't be, but we're stupid. We are dumb.
Well,
or at least the poorly educated have screwed us over. The ones that Donald Trump claims to love, the only ones that I've ever heard Donald Trump claim to love.
Well, that's just it. I feel like we're having a philosophical conversation where it's just like, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, it's every time you put a Republican into office, guess what happens? Nothing good comes of it. And you keep expecting that something good will come from it, and nothing ever does. And, I don't know. I mean, everybody says, oh, but if we put a Democrat into power or we put somebody else alternatively, it'll cost more. It's like, yeah, but where does the money go? It goes towards helping people.
Right.
It's like, that's the cost of progress. Progress doesn't come free. And this capitalism at all costs is a formula for disaster as well, because it means that, people with the ultimate goal in mind, which is to make money hand over fist and say, fuck anybody who gets in the way, and I don't care if it pollutes the air or the water or, causes cancer in children somewhere down the line. These are not the people that we should be holding up with you know, as idols and people to, you know, make heroes of, because they don't do anything. They don't produce anything that, you know, is of value in the long term. I mean, we have so much already. And like, where is AI going to help us? Honestly, other than steal jobs from other people. And then, oh, we're going to put it into robots. And
Hold on.
so why aren't the robots doing really, really dangerous work? Why aren't they in Fukushima fixing the disaster out there? Why are they fiddling around doing all this other crap? You know,
Because you got to make you got to make dogs that can, you know, be kicked over to show just how good the artificial intelligence is or whatever, and then, you know, who can go, like, you know, help them kill people better instead of helping clean up and help people. So,
you know, and like I said, I mean, I don't know. We are in such a complicated age where there are so many things to consider and so many things that can go right and then so many things that can go wrong. And the only factor that doesn't seem to be in favor of making things go right is money. And the people who have all the money are not the ethical people. They are the worst of the worst. They have stolen largely most of it. You know, some of it is based on speculation. Some of it is based on scams such as crypto and whatnot. And I got to wonder, where is society headed? Because here's my other concern. And, you know, I've thought long and hard about this, but what happened to Russia? Okay? So when Russia collapsed, what happened? Who was in power when Russia collapsed? And who sent over the carpetbaggers to Russia to go and rape and pillage and steal anything that was of any real value there? And then set up that system that was there, which then led to the oligarch society.
right.
And I think long and hard about it, and I think this is exactly what the U.S. is going through. He is bankrupting the nation. He's going to bankrupt all the farmers. He's going to leave nothing there for them. You know, he's going to destroy, you know, all forms of wind and solar energy that could, you know, do the same job as oil and gas in some degree. That would then, you know, be less polluting and, you know, make the life expectancy even higher, you know.
Right.
But crash the economy, give us a system that only benefits the wealthy oligarchs who are waiting for the economy to collapse, and then a fire sale.
Well, I look back, and a lot of times you can look back at Game of Thrones comments, and usually I quote other lines from the show that show, you know, the reality or whatever. But there was one conversation about who benefits the most in a siege of a city. If the city's under siege, who benefits the most? It's like, it's the thieves. You take the thieves are the ones that steal up all the food, and then by the end of the siege, they're the richest ones in the city because they were able to take all of the stuff that they've hoarded and then use that to convert it into their own personal wealth. Whereas, you know, in this case, the thieves are the billionaires and the oligarchs and the ones who are trying to collapse the system to take advantage of it financially for their own personal benefit, regardless of who it hurts, who it harms, who it kills.
Yeah, but that's just it. You know, we live in a society that is more than capable of providing for everybody. But now, you know, we're in conspiracy, we're fighting with each other over stupid shit. And, you know, I'm guilty of it as well, but I mean, you have to have a proper mindset now. You have to be thinking, what if everything falls apart? Do I have what's necessary to make it through the apocalypse? And, you know, I don't know. You would think that we would be operating on a whole different level where we would be thinking, okay, how do we fix all the problems that exist on the planet, you know, such as climate change, such as, you know, environmental, you know, water is going to be the new oil, you know, because it's going to be in short supply because, oh, we're going to use it in data centers. And I mean, if you want to do AI, do it in one place and use only one facility. All this, oh, we have to do sprawling data centers everywhere, and you know, and I'm like, why can't you just do it in one? Oh, because they're competing. It's capitalism at its finest, and only the strongest will survive. At what cost?
Right. And I'm sitting here, and
At what
I
cost?
heard the thing because they released, I think it was today, because there's a new Meta data center that's an AI data center that's projected to use, and it was announced today, I think it was, or very recently, 500 to 600 millions of gallons of water annually. So, you know.
But,
You know, and I'm
you
thinking
know,
like,
like-
and I said in the last show before I even knew that, I was like, look, they should be required to collect as much as possible and use the collected rainwater instead of pulling it out from the ground. Are they going to do that? Probably not. You know, maybe if, you know, I don't know exactly where this is located, but why not, you know, put yourself right up against the river, and then, you know, you could take water out the river, because we have the Mississippi River going through Louisiana. Take it from the river and don't take it from everyone else's water supply or whatever. Don't take it from the groundwater, but you know they're not going to do that.
Yeah, but here, I'll give you an example. And there is a technology that does work. And you know what it is?
Mm-hmm.
It's the aircraft carriers. They're nuclear powered.
Right.
Where do you think all the steam comes from?
The water in the ocean.
That's right. Because it basically, the salt water is pumped in from the ocean and it's used to cool the reactor. And then by cooling the reactor, it is then converted into steam, which is then used to power the turbines and everything else and whatnot. You know, and, you know, that should be a viable thing, because if nothing else, guess what? Now, look at what you could do with that steam now.
Mm-hmm.
You've got steam now that doesn't have any salt in it, that can then be recouped as regular water, which can then be, you know, made into a drinking water supply as well as everything else, you know, and, you know, I mean, this is just me thinking off the top of my head, and I'm not a rocket scientist by any stretch of the imagination, and I can think of solutions that these fuckers who are supposedly geniuses haven't come up with already.
Right.
You know, like, what the fuck? I mean, I don't know. I think I'm trying to be a critical thinker. I'm trying to offer solutions. But all I see in front of me are not solutions. What I see in front of me are problems that people just say, I ignore it, you know, fuck it, you know, we're only here for a short time, you know, eventually we all die, you know, why should I do anything to fix the problem? You know, and it's like, because that's what humanity has always done. We've fixed problems. we've made a better future for ourselves and our generations to come.
Right.
We can't hand this the coming generations a polluted planet with nothing left. And I mean, unless we're going to do the Elysium strategy where all the billionaires are going to go live up in space while the rest of us suffer in whatever is left of the planet, you know, I don't know what the fuck to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, science fiction was not only designed to scare us, but to get us into action, to think these things through and come up with solutions. And there are solutions.
Well, the thing is that people like conservatives will watch Star Trek and be like, "Oh, this is a great show." I'm like, you realize that the future that Star Trek promises happens when you have socialism and you know, people working together for the collective good and not, you know, conservatism. What? Since when has Star Trek been woke? Since they had the first interracial kiss and, you know, the episode with the half black, half white people being racist against each other, you know, that stuff, you know. But, you know, since when has Star Trek
but
been
where
woke?
but here's the question. All that came from Gene Roddenberry's imagination.
Mm.
And where does that imagination come from? That comes from things that he sees every day. And he was basically channeling through his subconscious the problems of society today and putting it in a story format that others could watch and then learn from.
Yep.
And, you know, that's the thing. There are people out there who are telling the truth, but there are way more people who are being fed a load of bull crap and racist, you know, scapegoating as well as other things, you know. Oh, well, if we do, we shouldn't tax the job makers, the job creators. And it's like, yes, you should. They've got more money than they could possibly spend in 100 lifetimes.
Right.
You know, they owe something back to society. That's part of the contract is, you know, you're going to put something back into the community. And somewhere along the line, you guys in the corporate and billionaire class that has come up to bite you all in the ass and then some, you've lost the thread.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't see any of these guys. They don't look happy. Betsy DeVos looks like the saddest fucking person on the planet. Oh, I think I believe what children need to learn is my tainted version of Jesus. And, you know, it's like, Jesus isn't here.
Right.
His lessons applied to an age where, you know, certain situations appeared. We don't live in that age anymore.
And Jesus
We
preached
now
socialism. Jesus and his apostles preached socialism, but they don't want to talk about that neither. So shout out to real Bill P. Thank you for being a liberal Danimal for 8 months. Thank you so much. So,
but you know, I mean, that's my thing. I mean, I don't know this. I mean, I wish I could call in and say, "Oh, I'm so proud of the United States for doing this and that and the other thing." And it's like, what can I say that I'm proud of anymore?
I mean, here's how, I do hope that one day you can call into this show and be like, I'm proud of y'all. It's probably not going to happen for at least another 3 years, or maybe it might happen towards the end of 2016 if we manage to take back the House and the Senate, or at least one of the things, and maybe that'll do something. But yeah, we don't have nothing to be proud of as a country at this point. There's nothing to be proud of. So,
you know, and I mean, that's just it. I mean, what do you tell your children? Other than there's lots of bad people out there who can't think straight and who make bad choices that affect the rest of us.
Well, I do try.
And many of
and
those
teach
bad
my children
choices.
and use Trump as I do like to show like things that happen on the news because of Trump, and then get my kids' opinion on it. And usually, almost all the time, if not all the time, their answer is pretty much in line with what I believe anyway. So I feel like I'm doing a good job at least teaching them. But unfortunately, not enough parents are teaching their kids to be good people as well.
Yeah, because they're working 2 jobs and they're just barely keeping their head above water.
Did I say
And that's
2016?
just
I meant
it.
2026. They said.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Oh,
I
well.
know. I caught your Freudian slip there.
Yeah,
I
let's
just
go
didn't
back in
wanna
time
say
and do the
anything.
right thing in 2016. That's probably where my mind was. But yeah, you're correct, audience. Thank you for correcting me.
But, like I said, I don't know where you guys are headed. And, and the thing is that you can't return back to the same old, because that's not going to work either. You have a failed government via the system that even the Democrats were running before. Yes, it looked good on Wall Street,
Right.
and it did put some food on the table, but it didn't solve the healthcare crisis. It didn't solve racism. It didn't solve the problem you have with law enforcement being an out of control, thing that was basically the slave patrol again.
Right.
You guys don't reform people. You just punish people, and then and say, oh well, we put them back into society and say, oh, by the way, you can't get a job because your criminal record will follow you the rest of your life. And unless you've got family who are willing to support you or find a job where you can work for them, you are shit out of luck, and you might as well go kill yourself. Or better yet, you could recrime again and then end up back in the prison system.
Mm-hmm.
And then you become slave labor again for the state, which is ruled by who?
Yep. The prison industrial complex, which loves Republicans. Because Democrats don't want to put private prisons.
But this is my point. Republicans are finger pointers. They are not problem solvers. And that's what they do. They stoke fear and resentment, and they scapegoat, and they gaslight, and they do all this stuff, and there's never a good outcome. There never is, and that's just it. They're only in it as long as they can get some money out of it, so that way they can go hide somewhere else comfortably, and that's just unacceptable, because there's too many people out there who don't have enough and who are killing themselves just to get by.
I mean, I remember in 2016, I'm really, really mean 2016 this time. I remember in 2016 when I was talking with Donald Trump was saying about how he wanted to turn Washington upside down. I was like, basically my idea was he probably only wants to turn Washington upside down so he can shake it like a couch and get all the loose change for himself. But nowadays, if they want to turn the couch upside down, it's probably so J.D. Vance can have a different position. So.
Yeah, I know. And I mean, that's just it. They're all disgusting. And that brings about another important thing that I'm worried about.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck is this turning point shit? Oh, we have to have it in all the schools now. We have to start teaching it in elementary. What the fuck?
How do you think they're going to get this modern version of the Hitler Youth? It's just training Hitler
Well,
Youth.
that was my point. It's a Hitler Youth recruitment tool. And it's going to be sold to them, and I'm like, these are brains that are not fully formed.
Right.
And are manipulable to the highest degree, and that don't have critical thinking skills. And then on top of that, they don't want teachers. They don't want good teachers anymore. They want teachers who will teach what they want them to teach and teach them not to question anything. And that's a horrible way to think of raising a child or to bring anyone into this world, is that they can't think for themselves.
Right.
You know? I know. I sound like the grumpiest old man on the planet.
Well, you're not the grumpy. That would be Dana Carvey's character. That's the way it was, and we liked it. We loved it. The grumpy old man.
But, you know, like, I just want better. I mean, I have more than many in the U.S. in terms of I have, you know, a fairly stable job. I have, you know, a means of transportation. I have a little bit of savings that is growing, you know. I have a stable government. But, you know, I have a stable government which is under threat by idiots.
We want to make it the first,
you know,
51st state.
In Russia, in China, in the United States. You know, people who look at what we have up here and think to themselves, gee, you know, it's a nice country. Be a shame if something happened to it.
Right.
You know, like, I don't know. Like I said, the thing that I don't like about the States is that every time I look at it, like I sent you that thing about the differences between Canadian government and U.S. government.
I literally just pulled that up. Like, before you brought it up, I literally just pulled that up on the screen right now. So, brilliant minds think alike. But yes, I got maybe... You know, Jojo Mojo in the chat predicted I would make the couch joke, and I predicted, I guess, a lot of psychicness going on at the end of this year. I wish my psychic powers could work to give me the Powerball numbers, but yeah, here's the graphic that Big Hook sent me, talking about you know, Canada evolved from 1848 to 1867 or whatever, USA frozen in 1789, and just a whole bunch of different things. You know, the Crown, a nonpartisan referee who stays above the political fray, versus the President of the United States, a partisan player who acts as both leader and national symbol. Question period, the Prime Minister must answer two rivals face-to-face every single day. The President is shielded from direct legislative questioning. The government sits in Parliament. Laws actually get passed compared to the gridlock of Congress with both houses. Uncertainty, no shutdowns. The government must pass a budget or face an election. We can halt the government whenever we feel like it. Direct action, a failing leader can be replaced by their party in a matter of hours. Otherwise, we need impeachment or the 25th Amendment. Career professionals providing a stable, nonpartisan governance with expertise. You know, what the conservatives call the deep state, versus patronage, 4,000 plus political appointments to lead to systemic politicization. 36 to 50-day campaigns have strict, fair spending limits, where we have multi-billion-dollar campaigns that never end. The Prime Minister effectively acts as the Speaker with executive power to get things done, but in our leadership, the President and the Speaker often will work against each other. The government is designed to evolve to live through convention and modern judicial review. And then we have a rigid set of government that's nearly impossible to update, leaving the nation tied to 1789 logic. So this is a great infographic that you sent me, so I appreciate it. And there you go. Anyway, continue.
Well, this is why. You think I'm crazy when I call in and I say, why haven't you guys figured this shit out? Because you could look at Britain and it's almost the same. You know, and we're not a unique system. We're a copied system in many countries, you know, with subtle differences, but with the most successful ones being in Scandinavia, where they basically said, you know, all natural resources of the country are assets of the people. And as a result, we will use those natural resources to fund the social safety net, as well as the medium by which, the country will be run, where everybody has the best life that they possibly can, which means free health care, free education, a pension at the end of your working life, guaranteed. And they're not going under like Social Security or health care or anything like you guys. And, you guys have allowed the Wall Street greed principle of oligarchs ruling over you. And what was the first thing you said you fought the revolution for? Was so that way you didn't have to answer to a king.
Right.
And you replaced the king with oligarchs who basically are in control of the king that you currently have, which seems to be Donald Trump. And it's so disappointing. It really is.
Let's see. DPD, a new person to the channel. Hey, DPD, good to see you. Says, what's most shocking is that our school boards would want to turn our children over to Nazi ideology. We can't teach women's history and black history, Native American history, but they can teach this BS. Exactly. 100% correct. Accurate. So.
But, that's just it. And you can't go back to the old system. You can't say, oh, yeah, okay, well, Donald Trump was a blip in history. No, he wasn't. He was the manifestation of every continuing Republican presidency. Except now he's got Russia behind him, backing his every single move.
Mm-hmm.
And all he asks is that you grease his slimy paws constantly, and that when his term is over, he's not going to stick around. He's going to sell everything and he's going to leave the country because he does not want to face consequences. He almost faced consequences with the last election, which I'm still not convinced that he won. And, you look at all the rest of it, where they're, Allison Gill has been showing that they're judge shopping again, and they're trying to get it in front of Eileen Cannon again, and trying to make sure that Jack Smith's second part of the report doesn't come out.
Mm-hmm.
Where does this shit ever go? Whenever there's somebody who is appointed by a Republican, it's just absolute lawless society. Oh, well, I interpret it this way, even though the words mean something completely different. I think the forefathers thought this. It's like, yeah, so you're telling me that you're a medium? A fucking astrologer?
I mean, they might be mediums, but I'm extra large. But I'm sorry. Anyway, but to address, let me address something real quick. Let me address something that Chad said in the chat. He brought up the GDP things, whatever. You should pull up a chart and compare our GDP numbers, employment, unemployment, whatever. Here's the thing: the U.S. in a vacuum absolutely has a higher GDP per capita than Canada, because you have to look at per capita. You just can't just look at overall. But per capita, the United States has a large one. But that is including the top 3% of the earners, which hoard much of what goes on. So I threw in to the Google search engine, what happens if you don't count the top 3% of earners, and how does that affect GDP per capita? U.S. average is heavily skewed by its super rich. The Canadian economy provides a better baseline for most citizens. The top 10 U.S. earners account for most of the GDP gap, highlighting that the U.S. economy generates much more wealth at the very top and provides less relative advantage for average Canadians. The standard GDP favors the U.S. 57,000 versus 47,000, at least back in 2016. It hides the massive inequality. Large portion, up to 3/4 of the U.S.-Canada GDP per adult gap comes from high-income earners. Canadian advantages, Canadian households in the bottom 50 to 56% of the income distribution are often faring better than their U.S. counterparts at the same income level, thanks to lower inequality. Productivity, the gap also relates to a higher U.S. labor productivity and longer working hours for Americans who work significantly more hours per year than Canadians, partially due to lower wages in the United States. So the people, United States citizens have to, or workers, not just citizens, but workers have to work longer hours to make up for the fact that our wages aren't as good, so that we can get the higher productivity that we supposedly have. So,
and you're also not discounting the fact that they are taking out your health insurance out of your wages as well.
exactly.
Whereas we pay it in regular taxes. So as a result, we actually see higher wages because of that. And that's just it. That means that our money goes further. It also, and the other thing that Chad is not accounting for is that we have lower energy prices, in terms of hydroelectricity and other things. And I mean, that's just it. We built infrastructure and, it's non-polluting infrastructure. Hydroelectricity does not cause climate change, whereas natural gas steam generators does. Coal does. All this, but GDP is better. And it's like, GDP at what cost?
Right. Well, here's the
cost. At the cost of your health?
Right. Cost of living things. Factors that influence the comparison, according to this as well, because I also looked up median household income for Canada compared to the U.S. Cost of living, U.S. incomes are higher, but Canada's system providing subsidized healthcare and education, which are significant expenses for U.S. taxpayers. Purchasing power, the U.S. has higher local purchasing power, but lower costs for essentials in Canada help to balance it out. Income distribution, the U.S. has greater income inequality, meaning lower income Canadian households can sometimes be better off than their U.S. counterparts at the same income level, and exchange rates fluctuate. Well, I'm not really worried about the exchange rates, but yeah. So the idea that our GDP is higher, or the idea that our median income is higher, is irrelevant, because it fails to look at the many of the other benefits that you have for living in Canada. And as at least these two searches have shown me, or should show everybody, that the bottom 50% of Americans would fare better under Canadian type policies than they do currently under U.S. fiscal policies. So,
well, it's the same bullshit that they play when they say, "Oh, but Canadian healthcare is shit." No, it isn't shit. Nobody up here goes bankrupt. Everybody gets seen on urgency basis. If you're dying, you get seen right away. If it's something that can be taken care of, a little bit later, yes. You say, "Oh, well, but there's wait lists," and it's like, yeah, you guys have wait lists as well.
mm-hmm.
Not to mention the fact that you got to fight with the fucking insurance companies, and then get your doctor to fight with the insurance companies to approve any fucking care that you get. We just go in and the doctor says, "Oh, you need this. I will give you a referral to a specialist, and hopefully he isn't too busy and he can see you as soon as possible." And that's the end of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't go any further than that. You guys have complicated things to the point of, paralysis, where nothing gets done, and when it's done at the highest cost to everything, whether it be the actual cost, the human cost, the psychological damage that goes worrying whether or not you're going to be able to pay your bills. I mean, I just don't get it. I really don't. I worry about you guys because, I struggle too, but God almighty, I don't have nearly as much on my plate as you guys do.
Nope.
Everywhere I turn, you guys are, you're worried about guns, you're worried about measles, you're worried about everything. Are you still there?
I'm still here. I'm just trying to find something else that Chad said because I'm trying to search for it as well, but now I forgot it. Now it seems to be lost in the scroll. So oh well, I won't worry about it. But yeah, apparently housing costs, especially in major metropolitan areas in Canada, can be higher than American housing costs because of lower supply and higher demand. But you know, I mean, still.
Yeah, but the thing is that, like, when you guys went through the housing crisis, guess what happened? Canada was secure. Why? Because we didn't issue crazy fucking loans. We put reasonable interest rates. We don't, we don't play around with this stuff.
Right.
We have rules and law that dictate that things have to be done properly. You can't take shortcuts. You have to do things legally. Otherwise, you go to jail. I mean, this is just it. You guys had that housing market thing, and then this is my biggest criticism of Obama. He let everybody walk. He bailed them out.
Yep.
So not only did they steal from everybody else around them with all their bonuses and whatnot for putting out these illegal mortgages, but then they got to walk away, and the CEOs of the banks got their bonuses on top of that after cratering the economy and everybody losing their job and their house and everything. Now tell me how that's right.
It's not, and that's the difference between us. Because when Obama was president, during that, we criticized our own president. The people on the left were critical of not allowing the banks to fail, not allowing them to to suffer the consequences for helping to privatize profit while socializing debt, socializing losses. So, at least for big corporations, not for the little guys, but still, we will be critical of our own people, but yet the Republicans refuse to be critical. And yeah, some of the costs that you're talking about, you have to do things the right way, you get punished. There are stricter building codes that have to be met in Canada, but meant for the safety of the individuals. But again, at the end of the day, you might have to pay a little more to buy a house, but you're also not going to go into bankruptcy because you're sick. How many people in the United States go to bankruptcy because they're sick? Bankruptcy, medical bankruptcy.
The number one cause.
Yeah. Hold on. Medical bankruptcies. Canada versus U.S. Medical bankruptcies are slightly more common in the United States than in Canada, partially due to differences in healthcare financing systems. The U.S. relies on a mixed public-private, blah, blah, blah. U.S. is often cited as having a high rate of medical-related bankruptcy. One estimate from 2025 suggests that 66.5% of bankruptcies in the U.S. are medical-related. Causes are high out-of-pocket costs, deductibles, co-payments, and coverage limits on private insurance plans can lead to substantial debt. A significant portion of U.S. population has gone into debt due to medical or dental bills. Canada, while some bankruptcies are indirectly related to health issues, it's extremely rare for Canadians to file bankruptcy solely because of massive uninsured hospital or physician bills. Canadian universal system protects citizens from ruinous doctor and hospital bills. A 2025 report estimated medical-related bankruptcies in Canada at 19%, though many sources indicate the number of bankruptcies over medical costs is near zero. So yeah, if you're in Canada, you're much less likely to have to file bankruptcy because you had an health issue versus the United States. So there's that too, that you're not taking into consideration. And when if you're trying to sit here and say that we're better because of money. So,
well, like I said, I scratch my head, and the thing is that you guys provide us with so much stuff, like whether it be television shows and everything else, and we think to ourselves, yeah, it's really entertaining, and then it's like, that is the reality that you guys live with. You guys are killing each other right, left, and center. You got guns everywhere. You're paranoid as fuck. You're getting sicker by the day. You pollute everything in sight. You manage resources like crazy. I mean, and you refuse to embrace the future.
Yep.
Like, you're going back to coal? For fuck's sakes. Why would you go back
Not
to
only
coal?
are we going back to coal, but because the conservatives love coal. Obama and Biden tried to do things like, instead of like letting the people who are coal miners to go without, they were like, hey, we're going to try and get new businesses into your areas so that you could work on, and we'll train you to work in these other fields so that you don't have to rely on coal. And the idiots were like, nope, we don't want to do that. We want to keep, getting all this coal in our lungs and dying because of breathing issues. We don't want to have to learn a new job. We want to continue to damage our environment, our neighbors, and etc. So,
yeah, this is just it. I don't get it. I really don't.
Chad goes, we also protect. Chad goes, we also provide you with security up in Canada. We protect you from Russia. But before Trump, I would say maybe that's a correct statement. But during Trump, I don't think there's any protection from Russia. If Russia invaded Canada right now, Trump would be like, well, you don't have the cards. He would not step in and do anything about it. Like, I do not have any faith that he would try and stop Putin from going in and going after Canada. Hell, I don't even think if Putin decided he wanted Alaska back, I don't think that Trump would stop that either. So he'd find some way to bend over and take it from good old Vlad. So,
well, that's just it. That's the thing. What outside of military might that you guys are so proud of, yet you cut another 36,000 VA jobs?
Yep.
Like, tell me how that honors your troops. Tell me how that fixes world problems.
Why would anybody think that the troops would ever get honored under Trump when he was like, what's in it for them? Like, when he doesn't understand the sacrifice that troops make, you can't expect him to actually be supportive of the troops. He's just going to use them to continue to push his racist and bigoted ideas. So,
but not only that, but tell me, what benefit does bombing Venezuelan fishing boats do? They're nowhere near.
It makes him look like because the rubes believe that he's actually bombing drug boats without any evidence showing that there were drugs in those boats. So it does him good in the eyes of his bigoted supporters. So, and yes, a distraction from the Epstein files. So,
and that's the thing. I haven't even talked about Epstein. That's an ongoing disaster where everywhere you look, his fingerprints are all over it.
Yep. Wait, Tim goes, Canada is eyeing Alaska, Dan. It's the apple of our eye. You understand. So basically you're trying to say is that you want Alaska to be the 11th province? So.
I don't understand it. I really don't. Because that's just it. You guys have... You can literally... From Nixon forth, every single Republican president or every Republican, Congress has been a scandal after a scandal after a scandal, which has cost your entire GDP and the debt to the point of you're at what, $40 trillion in debt?
Something like that.
For what? For what? So that way you could spend 20 years in Afghanistan. How long were you in Vietnam? How long were you in Korea? How
Right.
long, for what? You didn't change Afghanistan. You managed to divide Korea, and you managed to put another madman in North Korea who is threatening the world with nuclear bombs. You got China who is, who we have become so reliant on, including myself. Because they offer the cheapest goods at a cost level that we can absorb.
Right.
But I do feel guilty knowing that everything that I get from there has come from slave labor from a country that can't even feed itself based on its own land mass and resources. They have to scour the world to feed their own people.
Mm-hmm.
And they do it at the cost of poisoning their air, their water. You know, you can't drink water there in China, Chad. Everything has to be bottled. You can't even wash your own food unless you're using bottled water.
Mm.
You know, virtually everything that food-wise that comes into China has to come from somewhere else.
Yep.
They are raping the seas of all the fish. They turn their transponders off and then illegally fish. You know, they break the law all the time. You know, I mean, and forgive me, yes, I am concerned about the world and what we're going to leave to our children as well as our children's children. Because what we've inherited is a big fucking mess that everyone refuses to clean up.
Exactly.
Because, it'll cost money. Yes, it'll cost money now, but here, I'll give you an example. And this is what's the thing that I found rather astounding. For every infrastructure project that we don't take care of within a 10-year period in Canada,
Mm-hmm.
the cost triples. So every decade that we put off doing infrastructure, the cost triples.
Yeah, I mean, it's a matter of simple maintenance versus, major repairs. So,
and that's just it. So where you say that Canada is blah 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 blah. Canada has invested in our infrastructure. We are constantly, putting in hydroelectric plants. We're constantly upgrading the grid. We're constantly upgrading the telecommunications system. We're constantly upgrading the internet. We're constantly doing things that make sense towards the future. We constantly are, implementing environmental measures. We're constantly looking towards the future. We're constantly looking for partnerships with other countries that, have our interests at heart as opposed to just theirs.
mm-hmm.
And that's just it. There are better partners out there. Yes, we can offer our things to other countries. Germany now is getting a lot of our aluminum now because guess what? Germany wants to play ball with us and they want to set reasonable terms. And as a result, that's that. But guess what? Tariffs on everything from Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Meaning that your car now is going to cost $8,000 to $9,000 more. For what? For what?
Yep. You're right.
But I'm making money hand over fist in the market. So I like Donald Trump.
Well, it's unfortunate that
that
money will cause people to sell out their morals, their values, etc. So as long as my wallet's full, who cares what is in everybody else's wallets? Who cares that there are people citizens being detained to be deported? Who cares that our Department of Health is run by a quack? Who cares about the fact that people are becoming more and more vaccine hesitant, so we're seeing more measles cases because of these morons? Who cares about all that because my checkbook's happy? So that's the problem.
Yeah, but what do you think? This, in the history books, this is going to be known as the Dark Ages 2.0 because that's what's happened. You've gone back to the Dark Ages. Oh, we believe the anti-vaxxers. Oh, we believe the anti-science. Oh, we believe the coal barons. Oh, we believe all all these people that just want to destroy the country and don't care what happens in the future, so long as they have more wealth than they could possibly spend or use or put back into society, that's all that fucking matters, you know? And in the end, you know what? It's always the same story. Whoever has the most toys when he dies wins. And that's not good for anybody. You know, it really isn't. At what cost? At what cost? How many people will you have to screw over to be able to get there? How many lives will you have ruined to be on top of the heap? You know, like, and that's just it. Like I keep saying before and again, he's been training you guys to be sociopaths for the last 10 years. You've been slowly losing your humanity by uneducated people who are looking for quick answers that they provide while not questioning anything. And that's the thing. You're not thinking, you know, you're existing on their terms. You're not making things better for yourself. You're just existing on somebody else's terms of how you get to live, you know, and that's, I don't know what else to say. Anyway, I probably went on way too long.
Don't worry about it. It's all good.
You know,
So.
But I feel like I can't in good conscience not call in and tell you what I think, because I see things and I see solutions staring you in the face, pointing right into your chest and saying, just do it. Just do it. Just do what? You know, tax the billionaires and make shit happen. They can't spend it all. They can't take it with them to the grave. They can't,
and if the billionaires want to say, well, we'll just move, I'm like, okay, good, move. And then you'll have some other country's military to defend you and not the best military in the world. So bye. Don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. So there's a reason why they're here in the first place. And and there's, I don't buy the, they're just going to leave or whatever. But,
well, anyway, I leave you with those parting words, because I can't emphasize enough that you guys are at a you know, funny thing was, we said the turning point, which would be basically the Hitler Youth recruitment.
mm-hmm.
You guys literally are at a turning point.
Yep.
You have to make the decision to do the right things now and make the hard calls that are necessary to save the nation and to save democracy. And you can't just go back to the same old anymore. You have to reform.
Right.
You have to think, you have to change the system, because it hasn't worked for the last 50 fucking years, you know? And you don't have to come up with anything really crazy. You could even imitate what Canada has, and you would be better off. But, you know, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to go and look at what works and what doesn't. And you've got lots of examples of what doesn't work, because you seem to invest in them and beat the dead horse, you know, into the ground. You know, I mean, at this point, the dead horse is sitting 10 feet underground, and you're still trying to beat it.
Yeah. Before Chad leaves, so he's heading out, I want to make sure that Chad hears this part. Chad asked earlier in the chat if I would give up Liberal Dan Radio if somebody offered me a check for $2 million. Yes, I would. Absolutely, 100% would absolutely do that. I would give up the show for that, for the sake of my family. But that doesn't mean I would be voting. I wouldn't vote. I'm not voting for Trump for that. I'm still going to vote for the people who I think are going to do good things. I would just find other ways to help people, and let other people do the bloviating and the talking, despite the fact that I would probably miss it a lot. Yes, I would do that, but that still wouldn't cause me to support politicians that harm me. And that's the difference between your proposed scenario, Chad, of would I take money to stop doing this versus would I accept more money in my bank account and vote for a terrible person to enable that to happen? No, I would rather have less money in my bank account than support horrible, evil, fascist America's Hitler, as J.D. Vance called him back in 2016. So,
but that's the difference, though. You're not willing to do it at the cost of your soul.
Right.
That's the thing. I know people are in desperate straits right now, but Donald Trump is not offering you anything.
Nope.
And unless you've got the resources to
suffering, he's offering pain and suffering, and if you're a millionaire or billionaire, he might be offering things, or he might offer you a pardon if you can pay him $1 million to help pay for his stupid vanity projects that he has going.
Yeah, but that's the other thing. Like the ICE thing. How much longer can we let this go on? Because they're disappearing people at an accelerated rate, and they are just literally, throwing people down on the ground, and they're breaking arms, and they're denying them medical care as well as everything else. And then on top of that, have you seen those videos where they're like, oh, I'm trying to locate somebody, and ICE doesn't know where they are?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and we can't, unless you have a number of the person of a file number of the person that you're looking for. Oh, you mean me telling you their name, their social insurance number, or better yet, their tax ID or anything like that? You can't tell me where they are?
Right.
No, we can't tell you that. So you have a really fucked up system, and the operator goes, "Yeah, I know." And they say, "How can you live with yourself?" And they go, "Goodbye."
Yeah, that's a damn shame. But again, it's only going to change when more people, i.e., his people, start hurting more. Because once his people starts feeling the pain, then some of them will change their mind. Some of them won't, but some of them will be forced to. And I just hope more people, we don't have to lose too many people from his horrible policies before that happens. But anyway, thank you so much for calling in. Appreciate you as always, Big Hook, and you have a great rest of your night.
Thanks, you too, guys.
Right.
I only say these things because I care, and that's the thing. You have to take it in the spirit that it's meant to be received. And that's just it. I don't wish anybody harm, but at some point in time, you have to stand up and do it for yourselves, and that's all I'm asking, is that you do it, because we're here in Canada, we're cheering for you. We want you to do all the right things and to fix your situation. But, it's not happening, and it's not happening fast enough. And there are just so many roadblocks of evil that are standing in your way. And, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm depressing even myself. Yeah, thanks.
All right, bye. All right, thank you, Big Hook, everyone. We're not going to be opening back up the lines because I do have one or two things I want to talk about before we end the show. But Chad goes, but you would be losing the opportunity to change minds, and if you change one mind, that's morally better than giving up the show. Trump brings volatility to the market for traders, that is gold. Yeah, but that's the problem, is that for traders it's gold, but for everyone else it harms everybody. But my point is that, again, I could help other people in other ways. Like I could volunteer for a political campaign or something, or I could, where I'm not putting out content, but where I would do that. This is all hypothetically, obviously, because I'm not getting $2 million. No one's giving me $2 million to shut up. So that's never going to happen. But anyway, one of the things I do want to talk about before we end the show is something else that I had looked up. Again, when Trump shut down those windmill farm projects or whatever, I had wanted to see if there were people who were short selling or whatever. But again, apparently there's not been a single public exchange report from December 24th to 29, 2025. But market analysis between 24th and 29th, 2025 confirms massive selling pressure and bearish sentiment dominated these stocks following the government's 90-day project suspension. So Orsted AS, after plunging 12 to 15% on the news, analysts now estimate the 90-day delay could cost the company up to $325 million in idle construction costs. The financial risk led to a surge in bearish positioning as investors weighed a potential 14% permanent hit to the company's valuation if the projects are permanently scrapped. Dominion Energy, the stock experienced heavy downside volatility, in quotes, dropping between 4 and 8.4% in a single session on December 23rd. The company filed a federal lawsuit seeking a temporary restraining order to resume work, a move market observers suggest was aimed at curbing further speculative shorting by signaling a legal fight to protect the $10.9 billion project. Vestas Wind Systems AS shares fell 3% as the suspension of 5 major projects and coastal whatever directly threatened its turbine supply pipeline. And then broader sector impact, short interest in the renewable sector has intensified as the Interior Department hinted that the 90-day suspension could be extended indefinitely. The regulatory uncertainty has shifted the investment narrative for these companies from growth-oriented to high risk, making them continued targets for short sellers. So as I said, the shorts were going to be coming because of Donald Trump. So this is purposeful market volatility meant to profit the investor class, the billionaires and the billionaires, and harm everybody else. People whose funds are invested in these types of, it's like if you picked green energy funds to invest in as part of, your overall portfolio, your retirement portfolio is now taking a hit because of it. Now, there was the hearing today for Dominion, but there was not a final ruling today. Dominion Energy requested the ability to restart the offshore wind project. The judge scheduled a future hearing for January 16th of 2026. U.S. District Judge Jamar Walker set a hearing on Dominion's request for a preliminary injunction. That'll be in Norfolk, Virginia. This would allow the project to continue construction while the case proceeds. Classified evidence ordered. The judge ordered the federal government to provide any and all classified information it contends informed the decision to issue the stop work order. Request for immediate relief delayed. Dominion's motion for an immediate TRO was converted into a motion for a preliminary injunction, effectively delaying ruling on immediate relief. Focused on offshore wind, not solar. The legal challenge specifically concerns the coastal Virginia offshore wind project, which was abruptly paused by the Trump administration on the 22nd over unspecified national security concerns. Of course, unspecified national security concerns means they are full of shit and they're lying to you. There's no real national security threat that I believe is causing us to have to say, we can't build wind turbines. So, blah. So, yeah, there's that. Let's see, Christine, I once had a landlord tell me that his 2-bedroom house was too small for me and my 3 kids when we were all staying in a single room. And that's ridiculous. But obviously, I mean, many landlords can be horrible people to begin with. So, let's see. Christine, depends what Liberal Dan Radio chooses to do with that $2 million. Well, I mean, there's lots of things I would do. First and foremost being pay off all my debt. So there's that. Anyway, so we're about done for today. Again, I'm not going to have a show tomorrow or Wednesday. Decided just to not do a show tomorrow, and Wednesday as the replacement for Wednesday, and then Wednesday I have again the Stranger Things movie with my son. So I will be back Thursday to begin the new year with another episode of Liberal Dan Radio. Talk for the left, that's right. So until then, we will go ahead. I don't know if somebody was holding off on the like because they wanted to hear had Biden done it. But, without further ado, we will play that song.
his word was good as gold. Invited the Taliban to come to U.S. soil. If Joe had done that, they'd all recoil. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, more numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd want him to pay, but Trump did, so it must be okay. Double standards loud and clear. Rules for Trump, but not for peers. What they call treason, if Joe's the name, is patriotism when Donald's to blame. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, more numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd shout no way, but Trump did it, so it must be okay.
Obama and Bush's pictures got hidden, obscuring the past, history rewritten, hung in a hallway where no tour can see, confirming his unending fragility. If Trump can't see it, you must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list, object permanent, a milestone missed. If Trump can't see it, he must not exist. Stop the testing was the line that he said. Hundreds of thousands needlessly dead. Now HHS is run by brainworm quack, hiding the truth behind his back. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list, an administration run by narcissists. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Boxes of documents stacked floor to the wall, top secret folders in a bathroom stall. Charges were pressed, but the case was dropped. A corrupt judicial system he can co-opt. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. He'll swear it's fake news, a liberal can't see it, it must not exist. Encampments downtown, tents lining the street. Invisible people that power won't need. Hide them away so the cameras can't find it. Proof of a system that's cold and unkind. Of chaos and secret, an NDA sign, an illegal bribe. Michael Cohen fine. Trump got fined too over his gag order, but she didn't gag, cause he was much shorter. It must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. We can't let him win, we must resist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist.
I like turtles.
The creative director at WGSO had a little something he thought you should know. When Dan picked on his bits, Steve got real gruff. So Steve called Dan a flake, called him liberal dandruff. Steve thinks that his lines are really clever, but when do people ever like him? Never. Liberal Dan's got better lyrics, this is true. Listen and you'll feel like I do. Liberal Dan, his show is great. Liberal Dan, he goes live at 8. Liberal Dan radio, it's the best, cause Liberal Dan's head and shoulders above the rest. Steve's about to fight find out his mistake. In this feud, Dan's Kendrick, Steve is Drake. Dan might not be the world's best singer, but he's got more talent in his little finger. Steve thinks that his lines are really clever, but when do people ever like him? Never. Liberal Dan's got better lyrics, this is true. Listen and you'll feel like I do. Liberal Dan, his show is great. Liberal Dan, he goes live at 8. Liberal Dan Radio, it's the best, 'cause Liberal Dan's head and shoulders above the rest.